Hobbit by J.R.R. Tolkien. Chapter 1. An Unexpected Party. Bilbo Baggins, a content and unassuming hobbit, resides in the peaceful lands of the Shire. His daily life takes an unexpected turn when Gandalf the Grey, a wizard of great renown, pays him a visit. Gandalf, known for his affinity for adventures, leaves an enigmatic mark on Bilbo's door, unwittingly setting the stage for what will follow. The next day, a group of dwarves, led by the stalwart Thorin Oakenshield, arrives at Bilbo's doorstep, one by one, 12 in total. As the hobbit attempts to maintain his composure, the dwarves and their leader recount the tale of their plan to reclaim the Lonely Mountain and its treasure from the dreaded dragon, Smaug. Bilbo is overwhelmed as supper turns into a strategic gathering. The dwarves, with Gandalf's subtle insistence, extend an invitation to Bilbo, suggesting that he become their esteemed burglar, a role he hesitantly questions. Though initially reluctant, Bilbo finds himself intrigued by the notion of adventure. The night grows long, filled with song and laughter, as the dwarves sing of their quest and dream of riches. As the party concludes and guests leave, Bilbo is left in a state of inner turmoil, torn between his love of home and the inexplicable yearning for adventure kindling within him. Chapter 2. Roast Mutton Bilbo Baggins, the unassuming hobbit, embarks on his first encounter with adventure alongside the group of dwarves. As they travel through the rugged lands, they find themselves caught in a thunderstorm, which forces them to seek shelter in a dark and dense forest. Here they encounter 3 large and bumbling trolls named Tom, Bert, and William. The trolls are an intimidating trio, arguing over the best way to cook their newfound prey. Bilbo, trying to fulfill his role as the party's burglar, attempts to pickpocket them but quickly finds himself caught. The trolls squabble and bicker, each with a different idea on how to cook their plump little prize. Despite their menacing size, they are depicted as foolish and easily misled. Gandalf, the wise wizard, uses this opportunity to cleverly manipulate the trolls by imitating their voices, further provoking their quarrel. Confused and arguing amongst themselves, the trolls are distracted until dawn breaks, and they are turned to stone by the sunlight, which is their weakness. With the trolls defeated, the company gains access to their hidden cave, where they find a cache of food and weapons. This loot sets the tone for their journey, with Bilbo beginning to sense the unpredictable nature of the adventure ahead. The chapter encapsulates a mixture of suspense and humor, while also emphasizing the cleverness of Gandalf and the nascent courage emerging within Bilbo. Through these challenges, Bilbo begins to realize the depths of his own bravery and resourcefulness, foundational aspects for the journey that lies ahead. Chapter 3. A Short Rest. The weary travelers find themselves on a path leading them to the elven stronghold of Rivendell, a place of refuge and enchantment. Gandalf urges the company onward, reminding them of the necessity of reaching this sanctuary, where they will find both rest and counsel. As they journey through the rugged landscape, they hear the merry songs of the elves, who delight in teasing the group with playful verses from unseen perches. Bilbo, exhausted yet uplifted by the ethereal melodies, feels the mystical allure of their destination. Upon their arrival, they are warmly welcomed by Elrond, the wise and kind Lord of Rivendell, who shows them great hospitality. The group is granted respite and the opportunity to heal from their arduous journey thus far. During their stay, Elrond examines the map Thorin carries and offers crucial insight. He reveals the moon letters hidden on its surface, which are only visible on the same phase of the moon when they were inscribed. This revelation offers valuable information about the secret door into the Lonely Mountain, detailing the keyhole's visibility only on Durin's Day. The dwarves and Bilbo spend time basking in Rivendell's beauty, revitalizing their spirits. Bilbo, in particular, finds himself charmed by the peaceful ambience and the intriguing stories shared by the elves. Gandalf, speaking to Elrond, quietly reflects on the perils and challenges that lie ahead for the company, appreciating the brief moment of peace they experience. The time in Rivendell is brief, as Gandalf announces they must soon continue on their journey, despite the difficulty of leaving such a haven. With renewed strength and newfound knowledge, the company departs from Rivendell, filled with trepidation, but also hope for their quest's success. Chapter 4. Over hill and under hill, amidst the towering misty mountains, the company of dwarves, led by Thorin Oakenshield and accompanied by the hobbit Bilbo Baggins, faced new challenges as they traversed the perilous terrain. Their procession was slowed by treacherous paths and cold winds as they attempted to navigate the high mountain passes. With some guidance from Gandalf, they sought refuge in a small cave when a violent storm loomed overhead. As they settled in for the night, an uneasy sensation crept over them, but their exhaustion quelled immediate concerns of danger. Yet their respite was abruptly shattered as a crevasse in the cave opened, revealing a group of goblins lying in wait. The company was captured and brought before the great goblin, who initially planned a cruel fate for them. Tensions rose, but Gandalf, with his quick wits and magic, managed to create pandemonium, allowing them to escape into the depths of the mountain. In the ensuing chaos, Bilbo lost consciousness, separated from his companions amidst the dark underbelly of the mountain. And thus, the chapter closed with the foreboding sense of lurking dangers ahead and Bilbo's looming critical moment of unexpected courage and discovery. Chapter 5. Riddles in the Dark. Deep beneath the misty mountains, Bilbo Baggins finds himself in a dark and eerie cave after being separated from the dwarf party and goblins. As he attempts to navigate his way out, he stumbles across a peculiar creature named Gollum, who is both grotesque and fascinating. Gollum, who refers to himself as "my precious," possesses a mysterious and powerful ring. When Bilbo inadvertently discovers the ring on the cave floor, he unknowingly picks up an object that will change the fate of Middle-earth. The chapter unfolds as a battle of wits between Bilbo and Gollum, who engages in a game of riddles. The stakes are incredibly high. Should Bilbo win, Gollum will show him the way out, but if he loses, Gollum gets to eat him. The two exchange clever riddles in a tense and thrilling passage that showcases Bilbo's quick thinking and newfound courage. Eventually, when Gollum is unable to answer Bilbo's riddle, Bilbo capitalizes on his stroke of good fortune and escapes. However, the true turning point occurs when Bilbo inadvertently discovers that he can become invisible while wearing the ring. Gollum, sensing his precious ring is missing and realizing Bilbo has it, frantically searches for him. Bilbo uses his new stealth advantage to escape from Gollum and find a hidden path out of the labyrinthine caves. The chapter ends with Bilbo rejoining his companions, but neither they nor he can fully comprehend the significance of the ring or the events that have just transpired beneath the mountains. This chapter is a pivotal moment in The Hobbit, adding layers to Bilbo's character and setting the stage for the immense power he now unknowingly possesses. Chapter 6. Out of the frying pan into the fire. After narrowly escaping from the goblin tunnels, Bilbo Baggins finds himself alone on the other side of the misty mountains. However, he quickly locates the dwarves and Gandalf, much to their astonishment, as they had assumed he would not survive. Bilbo chooses not to disclose the existence of his newfound ring that grants him invisibility, merely claiming he used stealth to escape. The company is eager to hasten away from the mountains, as they are likely to be pursued by goblins when night falls. They begin their arduous journey across difficult and rugged terrain, aiming to get as far away from danger as they can. Their hopes for a clean escape are dashed when they stumble into a perilous situation involving a pack of wargs, malevolent wolves that often ally with goblins. Forced to take refuge in trees to avoid the circling wolves, the travelers realize they are trapped. The wargs cannot climb, but they can wait. Just as panic begins to set in, Gandalf uses his magic to ignite pine cones and throws them at the wolves, causing them to catch fire and scatter in fear. The threat seems alleviated until the goblins arrive and taunt the group, setting the trees on fire to force them down. Salvation arrives in the form of the majestic eagles, who swoop down to pluck each member of the company from the tops of their trees just as the flames reach them. The eagles are benevolent creatures, and they transport their grateful passengers to a distant and safe eyrie where they can rest and recuperate. There, they enjoy a brief moment of reprieve and shelter, recovering from what was perhaps the closest brush with death in their journey so far. Despite the terrifying nature of their ordeal, the group emerges with a renewed sense of camaraderie and determination for the trials that lay ahead. Chapter 7. Queer lodgings. Bilbo Baggins and the company of dwarves continue their adventurous journey, guided this time by Gandalf. They are headed towards the home of Beorn, a skin changer who can take the shape of a great bear. Gandalf warns the group about Beorn's unpredictable nature and suggests visiting him in smaller groups so as not to overwhelm him. The plan works, as Gandalf cleverly introduces the company of dwarves to Beorn 2 by 2, making the story of their journey engaging and capturing Beorn's curiosity. Beorn, fascinated by their adventures, offers them hospitality and insights into the region's perils, such as the dangerous Mirkwood forest and the nefarious presence of forest goblins. Beorn advises them to stay on the path when crossing Mirkwood and supplies them with food and ponies to help on their journey. However, he insists that the ponies be sent back as soon as they reach the forest's edge. As a parting gift and precaution, Beorn supplies them with provisions and advice about the enchanted stream they will encounter. The travelers spend a peaceful night in Beorn's unique home, where Bilbo catches sight of Beorn in his bear form wandering in the night. With renewed strength and the sense of security offered by Beorn's hospitality, the company departs, sending their gratitude but also a hint of trepidation about what lies ahead in the ominous Mirkwood. Gandalf also reveals he must leave the party before they enter the forest, as he has other pressing matters to attend to. Even though his departure adds to the solemnity of their upcoming trek, they have little choice but to continue forward into the daunting darkness of Mirkwood, with Beorn's words echoing in their minds. Stay on the path. Chapter 8. Flies and Spiders. Bilbo and the dwarves find themselves deep in the dark heart of Mirkwood Forest, struggling through the oppressive and seemingly endless woods. The enchantment of the forest begins to take its toll as they become increasingly disoriented and weary. Their supplies dwindle, and hunger gnaws at their spirits. To make matters worse, the path that had seemed so clear disintegrates into confusion, with the party losing its way. Desperate for food, they aim to shoot a deer but are thwarted by a dark stream that magically puts anyone who touches it to sleep. Bombur, the heaviest of all, falls into it, and when he wakes, he has forgotten everything about the journey so far. Amidst this chaos, they encounter eerie, mirage-like lights in the distance, resembling an elvish feast into which they unwisely crash, only for it to disappear and leave them in blackness. With their minds playing tricks and exhaustion setting in, they venture further into the foreboding thickets. Suddenly, they are surrounded and seized by oversized spiders, and the dwarves are ensnared in webs. Bilbo, however, withstood capture. In a heroic moment, he frees himself using his trusty magic ring to become invisible and cleverly distracts the spiders by harassing them with stones. He names his sword Sting as he fiercely slays the spider captors, embracing his inner heroism. With newfound courage and resourcefulness, he successfully rescues the others. As they regroup, they realize they are not alone. Elves have been silently tracking them, and Thorin is taken captive, escalating their perils in Mirkwood. This oppressive chapter underscores both the physical and psychological trials the company faces, intensifying the themes of courage, camaraderie, and the importance of clear-hearted leadership as they press on toward their distant goal. Chapter 9. Barrels Out of Bond. Captured by the Wood Elves, Thorin and his company find themselves imprisoned within King Thranduil's halls. While the elves celebrate their recent victory over the goblins, Bilbo, wearing his magic ring, remains undetected. He devises a cunning escape plan by listening to the elves and waiting for the right moment to act. Bilbo discovers that the elves use barrels to send goods down the river to Lake Town and decides the barrels will be their means of escape. As the elves relax and feast, Bilbo searches for the keys to the dwarf-filled cells. Using utmost stealth, he manages to acquire them from the guard who has fallen asleep after a bout of heavy drinking. With time pressing, Bilbo unlocks the cells, and the dwarves discreetly step out into the cavernous storage area. Bilbo helps them into the empty barrels, but with no one to secure him a barrel, he lacks a straightforward means of escape. In a daring and risky maneuver, Bilbo clings onto a barrel as the elves lazily send it down the sluice toward the river. A bumpy and wet ride ensues, particularly dangerous for one such as Bilbo who's unprotected. Yet by determinedly holding on, he makes it to the riverbank, drenched and exhausted. The perilous escapade into the currents of the river tests the resolve and courage of all involved. They eventually arrive near Lake Town, emerging from the barrels cramped and disarrayed but victorious. This chapter highlights not only Bilbo's growing resourcefulness and courage, but also deepens the bond among the group, forging a path to the next stage in their grand adventure. Chapter 10. A warm welcome upon arriving at Lake Town, also known as Esgaroth. Thorin and company are on the brink of despair, soaked and exhausted from their arduous journey through Mirkwood. They are grateful to be greeted by the town's men, although initially the dwarves are met with skepticism and suspicion. However, when Thorin proclaims his identity as the heir to the throne under the mountain, the mood dramatically shifts. News of Thorin's return and the legendary tales of the Lonely Mountain reignite the townspeople's hopes for prosperity and the return of wealth to their city. The townspeople, inspired by the prospect of regaining the treasures hoarded by Smaug, welcome the company with open arms and hospitality. The master of Lake Town, although doubting, perceives Thorin's arrival as a potential means of profit and opportunity, skillfully managing the crowd's enthusiasm while ensuring his authority remains paramount. The narrative highlights the juxtaposition between the townsfolk's genuine excitement and the master's crafty diplomacy. The dwarves and Bilbo are treated to a warm reception, feasting and resting in unaccustomed comfort, a stark contrast to their previous hardships. Days are spent preparing for the final leg of their journey to the Lonely Mountain. Thorin's company is celebrated with songs, banquets, and tales of old, raising their spirits. However, despite these comforts, a growing sense of urgency underscores their stay, aware that other challenges lie ahead once they resume their quest. All the while, Bilbo ponders the significance of their mission, his unease tempered by the genuine warmth extended by the locals. Eventually, fully provisioned and rested, the company prepares to depart, their hearts buoyed by the warm welcome, but also realizing that the true testing of their mettle is yet to come. Chapter 11. On the Doorstep. The journey of Bilbo Baggins and the company continues as they finally arrive at the Lonely Mountain, the ultimate goal of their quest. This chapter captures the anticipation and dread of approaching the domain of the fearsome dragon, Smaug. As they draw near to the mountain, the travelers are filled with trepidation, contemplating the challenge that lies ahead. The company finds the western side of the mountain eerily quiet and deserted, which only adds to their unease. They camp on a ledge overlooking a great rock wall, using minimal supplies and remaining ever vigilant for danger. Despite their initial optimism, frustration grows among the party as they struggle to locate the hidden door described on Thorin's map. Days pass with no success, and their provisions begin to dwindle, leading to concern about how they will manage without food or help. The company examines every possible entry point along the rocky facade, yet the door remains elusive, veiled by ancient magic and cunning design. As hope starts to wane, Bilbo, in a moment of fortuitous insight inspired by a thrush's song, recalls Elrond's words regarding Durin's Day, a magical time when the last moon of autumn and the sun are in the sky together. Realizing that Durin's Day is upon them, the company eagerly watches the light touch the rock. At last, as the setting sun casts light upon the wall, a hidden keyhole is revealed in the stone. Thorin uses his key, given to him by Gandalf, to unlock the secret entrance, and after much effort, the heavy stone door swings open. The revelation is a triumph, yet it is tinged with tension, as the path into the mountain promises danger and the daunting confrontation with Smaug himself. As the company peers into the gloom of the passage, they are acutely aware that their adventure is about to take a turn into the unknown depths of the dragon's lair. Chapter 12. Inside Information. Inside the mountain, Bilbo Baggins, the unlikely hero of our tale, shows remarkable bravery and cunning. As the dwarves and Bilbo plan to retrieve their hoarded treasure from within the depths of the Lonely Mountain, Bilbo is chosen to descend into the dragon Smaug's lair. Armed only with the ring that grants him invisibility, his courage, and the intelligence that has served him well thus far, Bilbo ventures alone into the lair of the fearsome dragon. As he sneaks into the pitch-black cave, Bilbo's curiosity gets the better of him, and he is both awestruck and intimidated by the incredible mound of treasure he encounters. Among the piles of gold, jewels, and antiques, his eyes are drawn to the biggest treasure of all, the impressive Arkenstone, the heart of the mountain. This precious gem, coveted by Thorin, calls to Bilbo, but his immediate concern turns towards the dragon himself. Smaug, massive and fearsome, sleeps amidst his wealth, the gold glittering beneath him. As Bilbo contemplates his next move, he unwittingly awakens the clever beast. Rather than attack, Smaug is intrigued by Bilbo's invisibility and initiates a tense conversation with him. Throughout their cryptic exchange, Bilbo subtly garners valuable insights about Smaug while revealing nothing of his own nature. He learns of Smaug's armored scales, but notes the unprotected spot on his underbelly, a critical weakness. Despite the dragon's intimidating presence, Bilbo manages to steal a two-handled cup, returning to the dwarves with it as proof of his venture. Smaug's fury over the missing cup provokes an impulsive reaction, causing him to rage through the mountains seeking the intruder. However, Bilbo's clever exchange with the dragon confirms to him the information needed to aid in their quest for victory over Smaug. The chapter not only highlights Bilbo's growth from a hesitant burglar to a resourceful and brave adventurer, but also sets up the impending showdown with Smaug, fortifying the group's strategy to reclaim their homeland. Chapter 8. Not at home. Bilbo Baggins and the dwarves find themselves finally facing the prospect of entering the lonely mountain to retrieve their gold from the dragon Smaug. But as they venture closer, they encounter eerie silence and an unsettling atmosphere, indicating that things are not as they expected. The desolation of Smaug is apparent as they pass ruined buildings and streets that have been long abandoned by their inhabitants. Taking a deep breath, Bilbo bravely approaches the hidden door in the mountain, which he unlocks with the help of the thrush that had been paying close attention to their journey. Upon entering, they are overcome by the eerie emptiness and daunting darkness of the tunnel leading to the dragon's lair. Bilbo, feeling the weight of his responsibility as the group's designated burglar, cautiously makes his way through the passageway. He becomes increasingly unnerved by the immense emptiness and the anticipation of Smaug's looming presence. Reaching the great chamber of Thror's treasure, Bilbo is astounded by the sheer volume and wealth surrounding him, but he cannot shake the feeling that they are being watched. Smaug, however, is notably absent, offering a temporary relief to Bilbo as he seizes the opportunity to examine the hoard more closely. Driven by curiosity and his cunning, Tookish side, he takes the precious Arkenstone, a gem of unparalleled beauty, as his own secret prize. Not wanting to linger too long in the dragon's domain unaccompanied, Bilbo returns to the dwarves to report the eerie stillness therein. The dwarves are anxious but excited, driven by the thought of reclaiming their lost kingdom and riches. Though unsure of Smaug's whereabouts, they take advantage of the temporary safety that Bilbo has confirmed. The chapter closes with an unsettling ambience, leaving the characters and readers alike on edge regarding the dragon's absence. This chapter marks a critical transition, as the dwarves must now weigh the risks of Smaug's unexpected behaviors against their long-awaited opportunity to reclaim their ancestral home and treasures. Chapter 14. Fire and Water. The chapter opens with Smaug, the fearsome dragon, flying out of the mountain in a fury after being provoked by the intrusion of Bilbo and the dwarves. The dragon sets its rage toward the nearby town of Esgaroth, situated on the Long Lake. The residents of Esgaroth are initially caught off guard by the sudden attack, but quickly spring into action. Bard, a skilled archer and the captain of the town's defenders, rallies the people to fight back despite the overwhelming odds. As Smaug rains fire upon Esgaroth, the town begins to burn, causing chaos and panic among its inhabitants. In the midst of the battle, Bard hears the pleas of an old thrush who communicates the hidden vulnerability in Smaug's armor, a small bare patch on the dragon's underbelly. Without hesitation, Bard uses his prized black arrow, a cherished family heirloom, to strike true at this weak spot. The arrow pierces Smaug's heart, and the mighty dragon plummets from the sky, dead. With Smaug defeated, the destruction only shifts as the burning wreckage of the town leaves a ruin in its wake. The residents of Esgaroth are left to mourn their losses and consider their next steps. Amidst the despair, Bard emerges as a hero, admired for his bravery and leadership. As others debate over blaming the master of Lake Town for the incident, Bard focuses on the future, suggesting the people rebuild and seek compensation from the treasure that lies unguarded within the lonely mountain. While Bard becomes instrumental in organizing the survivors and contemplating the challenges ahead, the chapter marks a turning point in the fate of the town and the wider world beyond. Esgaroth's struggle and the dragon's demise set the stage for the ensuing power struggles, as many will soon lay claim to the massive wealth within the mountain. The narrative of hope, determination, and resilience stands as a beacon amid the ashes of destruction, foreshadowing the challenges and alliances yet to come. Chapter 15. The Gathering of the Clouds. As the dust of the skirmish with the dragon settles, the focus shifts back to the lonely mountain where important developments are brewing. Thorn Oakenshield and the dwarves, along with Bilbo, have taken up residence in the mountain, now free from Smaug's tyranny. However, as Thorn's obsession with the mountain's hoard grows, tensions begin to mount. Thorin, deeply protective of his family's heritage and treasure, becomes increasingly suspicious and paranoid, suspecting betrayal and theft even from his comrades. Meanwhile, news of Smaug's defeat has reached far and wide, attracting several parties who are all eager to lay claim to a portion of the treasure. The men from Lake Town, led by Bard the bowman, arrive asking for compensation, as it was they who suffered most due to Smaug's wrath. Along with them come the Wood Elves, led by their Elven King, also eyeing the riches of the mountain. The chapter explores themes of greed and rightful ownership, as Thorin staunchly refuses any claims to the treasure, intent on keeping the entire hoard for the dwarves. It exposes the complexities and greed that wealth can provoke, highlighting Thorin's growing animosity toward anyone who seeks to take part in the fortune. Tensions rise as Bard and the elves establish a camp just outside the mountain, awaiting diplomatic resolution or, if need be, an opportunity for force. The scene is set for an impending conflict, with the clouds of potential war gathering around the lonely mountain, a sharp contrast to the triumphant expectations Bilbo and the dwarves once had post-Smaug. Chapter 16. A Thief in the Night. Bilbo Baggins, the unassuming hobbit, finds himself in a turbulent time as tensions rise between the dwarves, elves, and men surrounding the lonely mountain. Thorin Oakenshield, once a companion, is now fiercely protective and suspicious, driven by the allure of the extensive hoard of treasure they reclaimed from the dragon Smaug. This treasure, however, is not the sole possession of the dwarves, as claims from the men of Lake Town and the Elven King both lay siege to Thorin's conscience and leadership. Amidst this growing conflict, Bilbo is troubled by the brewing hostility and desperate to prevent a disastrous war over gold. Under cover of darkness, Bilbo sneaks away from the dwarves' fortifications, driven by a plan he's formulated to rectify the tense situation. Armed with a single invaluable piece of the hoard, the Arkenstone, he slips into the allied encampment. There he meets with Bard, the dragon slayer of Lake Town, and the Elven King, revealing his possession of the Arkenstone and suggesting it as a bargaining chip to broker peace. This act showcases Bilbo's courage and morality, prioritizing harmony and the greater good over allegiance to Thorin. His revelation astonishes Bard and the Elven King, who both recognize the possibility Bilbo's offer brings. Gandalf, lurking unseen, silently applauds Bilbo's bravery and wisdom. With negotiations now possible, Bilbo's decision sets the stage for the unfolding events. Returning to Thorin under the guise of fetching something in the shadows, Bilbo resumes his place, uncertain of the consequences his audacious actions might presage. In this chapter, Bilbo steps into an unexpected role of heroism, motivated by an intrinsic sense of justice and peace, altering the fate of those he once followed, and exemplifying the heart and valor found within one small hobbit. Chapter 17. The Clouds Burst. Tension permeates the air as Thorin Oakenshield remains obstinate and unwilling to share the treasure of Erebor with the armies gathered at the lonely mountain's doorstep. Amidst the foreboding atmosphere, A crucial turning point occurs when Bard and the Elf King ally against the dwarves, with Thorin stubbornly barricading himself within the mountain. However, the conflict swiftly escalates with the unexpected arrival of goblins and wargs, forcing the dwarves, men, and elves to unite against a common foe in the climactic battle of 5 armies. The scene is chaotic and violent, with the once divided groups now driven to fight for survival against their mutual enemies. Bilbo Baggins, caught in the whirl of events, manages to stay safe by wearing his invisibility ring, yet he witnesses the horrors of warfare firsthand. Throughout the tumult, Thorin's character arc undergoes significant development. Initially blinded by his greed and obstinance, Thorin eventually has a moment of clarity as he sees the peril facing his kin and allies. The battle itself is vividly described, with the fierce combat and surge of emotions weaving through the narrative. The unexpected arrival of the great eagles and Beorn, who enters the fray in a transformative rage, turns the tide against the goblins. As the dust settles, Thorin emerges wounded and, realizing his folly, makes peace with Bilbo, asking the Hobbit for forgiveness and acknowledging the value of friendship and the futility of hoarding wealth. Amid the chaos, Bilbo is knocked unconscious and misses the final stages of the conflict. However, the shift in Thorin's perspective offers a poignant reflection on the transient nature of wealth and the enduring virtues of courage and companionship, which hold greater worth than gold or jewels. The chapter closes with the poignant reconciliation amidst the aftermath of war, setting the stage for emotional resolutions and farewells in the chapters to come. Chapter 18. The Return Journey. After the Battle of 5 Armies, the aftermath unfolds, leaving many to mourn and reflect on the high costs paid. Bilbo Baggins, having played a crucial role in the battle's outcome, bids farewell to the fallen Thorin Oakenshield, who acknowledges Bilbo's bravery and mourns their strained relationship due to the tension over the Arkenstone. Thorin expresses regret over his previous actions, and Bilbo, with a heavy heart, departs the battlefield carrying the memories of both friendship and loss. The victors, men, elves, and dwarves, must now address the future, rebuilding and redistributing the wealth of the Lonely Mountain. Bard, the rightful slayer of Smaug, demonstrates nobility and justice in his negotiations with the new king under the mountain, Dain Ironfoot, ensuring that the human town of Dale will receive support for its reconstruction. The process solidifies new alliances and acknowledges old ties between these peoples. Gandalf and Bilbo finally depart from the company of their newfound friends and comrades. They begin the long journey back to the Shire, retracing the trail that once blazed a path of danger and discovery. Their return is marked by reflection on the journey's perilous nature and the impact of the events on Bilbo's character. Along the way, they revisit Beorn, who warmly hosts them, and their travels continue through the lands that have grown familiar and dear. As Bilbo approaches his own quiet homeland, he ponders the transformative journey he has undergone, the courage, wisdom, and adventures that are now part of his own story, as well as Middle-earth's growing legend. Throughout the journey back, the quiet undertone of Gandalf's laughter accompanies them, reminding Bilbo of the magical, mischievous interference that started it all. As they near the Shire, the once humble hobbit looks forward to his home, but knows that he is forever changed by the journey. A hero returned. Chapter 19. The Last Stage. The party departs from the gates of Erebor, with Gandalf and Beorn accompanying Bilbo for the journey home. As they travel westward, Bilbo feels a mixture of nostalgia and relief at being so close to home after the long and arduous adventure. Along the way, they revisit the places they passed before, finally stopping at the last homely house in Rivendell, where Elrond and the elves welcome them warmly. During their stay, they recount their tales and learn about events that transpired while they were away, providing Bilbo with a sense of closure and understanding of the wider world beyond his doorstep. Continuing their journey, Bilbo notices the changing seasons, as autumn gently gives way to the freshness of spring. The early blossoming of nature mirrors his appreciation for the simple pleasures of life. Eventually, Bilbo and Gandalf reach the familiar boundaries of the Shire, and as the comfortable sight of Bag End comes into view, Gandalf takes his leave. Bilbo returns just in time to discover that his belongings are being auctioned off, as he had been presumed dead during his long absence. With some trouble, he reclaims his property and returns to his peaceful and unassuming life. Despite having acquired significant treasure, Bilbo spends wisely and modestly. He becomes something of an oddity among the hobbits, with rumors and gossip circulating about his adventures. Yet Bilbo remains content, often entertaining himself with his stories and songs and receiving occasional visits from Gandalf. Bilbo's journey has transformed him both internally and externally, giving him a newfound wisdom and understanding of the world. He cherishes his adventure, but is glad to have it behind him, embracing the tranquility of his beloved hobbit hole. As the chapter closes, Bilbo's invitation to his next unexpected adventure is left open-ended, suggesting that he may not be done seeking the thrills of the world just yet.